Hey everyone, buckle up. Tonight we're sneaking into a place so secret, even the Swiss guards pretend they've never heard of it. Picture this. We tiptoe past the selfie stick armies under St. Peter's dazzling dome, duck the velvet ropes of doom, and slide down a marble banister straight into a pagan necropolis that's been napping under Vatican City since your great-great-great keep-going great-grandpa was in short togas. That's right. 2,000 years of prime real estate, now a 5-star Airbnb for ancient ghosts who still complain about the Wi-Fi. Honestly, you wouldn't last 60 minutes. Your phone would die, your latte would spill, and the first whiff of ode a second-century tomb would send you sprinting for the nearest gelato. Survival rating, 1 lonely star, and that star is mostly pity. So, before you cocoon in your blanket burrito, smash that like button like it owes you money, and subscribe only if you're genuinely obsessed with my particular brand of midnight weirdness. Then drop a comment, city, country, local time. I want to know if you're in Tokyo at 3 a.m. or Texas at Yeehaw 30. Bonus points if you're listening from inside a blanket fort. Now, kill the overheads, cue the fan for that asthma white noise hug, and let's ghost glide into tonight's adventure. Spoiler, the skeletons are terrible dancers, but the ambience, chef's kiss. You're standing on the ancient Via Triumphalis, just as the sun dips behind the Janiculum Hill, painting the sky the color of overripe figs. The road is narrower than you expected, barely wide enough for 2 carts to pass without scraping hubs, and the dust clings to your sandals like it's got opinions. Torches sputter in iron brackets along the way, their pine resin smoke curling lazy spirals that smell sharper than your average campfire. Somewhere a nightjar calls, a sound like a coin dropped on marble. You shift the small oil lamp you've been handed. It's warm from someone else's palm, the clay still holding the day's heat. The wick barbs, throwing a coin-sized puddle of gold across the ground. Ahead, the necropolis begins without fanfare. No grand arch, no signpost, just a gentle slope where the tombs start shouldering in on both sides like polite but insistent neighbors. The first mausoleum is modest, brick-faced, its door ajar as if the owner stepped out for a moment and forgot to lock up. You catch a whiff of myrtle drifting from inside. Someone left a sprig on the threshold, still green, still fragrant. The guide, me, your slightly sardonic companion for the evening, leans close enough that you smell the faint cedar on my cloak. Careful, I murmur. The dead here are terrible at small talk, but they do love an audience. You duck under the lintel. The air inside is cooler, tasting faintly of earth and old wine. Your lamp reveals a narrow chamber where the walls wear their original stucco like a faded ball gown. There's a shelf cut into the rock, someone's final bed, and above it, a shallow niche holding a glass vial no longer than your thumb. Inside, the remnants of perfume have crystallized into tiny amber diamonds. You tilt the lamp. The crystals wink like they're in on a joke. Scholars agree this was a standard grave good for the middle-class dead of the 1st century. Nothing flashy, just enough scent to mask the inevitable. But here's the quirky bit. The vial stopper is carved into a tiny dormouse, curled as if asleep. Was it a pet, a family emblem, a private chuckle at mortality? The mouse isn't telling. Stepping back onto the path, you notice the ground is paved with broken pottery. Opus signinum, the Romans called it, each shard pressed in at a jaunty angle. Your foot finds a fragment of red-gloss terra sigillata, the Ferrari of ancient tableware, now reduced to sidewalk confetti. Somewhere overhead, a modern tour group shuffles across the Basilica floor, their muffled voices filtering down like distant rain. You smile. They're walking over your head and have no idea you're walking over theirs. The Necropolis was discovered in the 1940s when workers digging a parking garage kept hitting brick vaults. Pope Pius Roman XII gave the nod to explore, and what they found was an entire city of the dead, perfectly preserved under the Renaissance masterpiece above. Layer upon layer, pagan, then Christian, then pagan again, like a lasagna no one meant to bake. A breeze finds its way down the corridor, carrying the scent of damp stone and something sweeter, almost like warm bread. You follow it past a row of columbaria, those honeycomb walls of urn niches, each the size of a shoebox. Most are empty now, their ashes long scattered or respectfully reburied, but one still holds a small amphora sealed with pitch. The label, scratched in hasty capitals, reads L. Cassius Nicephorus, lived 38 years, loved figs. You have to grin. Even in eternity, the man wanted credit for his snack preferences. Nearby, a child's niche contains a single clay rattle, its peas long since turned to dust, but the shape still perfect. You can almost hear the ghost of a giggle. The path narrows, and the tombs grow grander. 2 stories now, with pediments and pilasters like miniature temples. One bears a fresco of a ship under full sail, its oarsmen tiny as ants. The sailor who paid for it was likely a freedman who made good in the grain trade. The ship was his pride, his passport to respectability. But look closer. There's a dolphin leaping the prow, and its eye is picked out in real gold leaf that somehow survived the centuries. Was it vanity, a promise to Neptune? Or just the ancient equivalent of a bumper sticker that says, "I'd rather be sailing"? The gold glints when your lamp passes, a private wink across 20 centuries. You pause at a crossroads where 4 paths meet under a brick vaulted ceiling. Someone long ago scratched a game board into the plaster, Mill 9 Men's Morris, whatever they called it then. The grooves are worn smooth, as if generations of bored gravediggers whiled away the nights. You rest your fingers in the shallow cups and feel the faint warmth of all those forgotten games. Above, a ventilation shaft climbs toward the surface. Through it drifts the faintest echo of Gregorian chant from the Basilica's evening mass. Pagan and Christian harmonies braid together in the dark like smoke and incense. It's one of those moments historians love to argue over. Was this overlap deliberate, accidental, a quiet truce between worlds? The shaft offers no opinion, only cool air and the distant scent of beeswax candles. Your lamp sputters. Olive oil burns fast when you're nervous, and you tip the spout to coax another minute of light. The flame steadies, revealing a final detail you nearly missed, a single peacock feather painted on the wall, its eye still brilliant lapis. The bird of Juno, symbol of immortality, watching over the crossroads like a patient doorman. You reach out, not quite touching, and feel the air stir as if the feather might lift and drift away. Somewhere deeper in the Necropolis, a drop of water falls, plink, into a hidden cistern. The sound is soft, regular, the heartbeat of the underground. You realize the Via Triumphalis isn't just a road, it's a threshold, and you're about to cross it. The peacock's painted eye follows you as you leave the crossroads, its lapis gaze catching the last flicker of your lamp before the corridor curves. You round the bend, and the air shifts, cooler, greener, carrying the unmistakable bite of crushed laurel leaves. Someone ahead must have scattered a fresh handful. The scent pools around your ankles like a friendly cat. Your sandals whisper over the mosaic threshold of the next mausoleum, a larger one this time, its doorway framed by two slender columns that lean inward as if sharing a secret. The guide, still me, still trailing cedar and sarcasm, rests a hand on your shoulder. Mind the step, I say. The floor's been waiting 2 millennia for someone to trip on it. Let's not give it the satisfaction. You lift your lamp, and the chamber blossoms into color. The walls are alive with frescoes, gardens that never fade, vines that climb toward a ceiling painted the exact blue of a summer noon. In the center stands a marble sarcophagus, its lid carved into a gently reclining couple. They're dressed for a dinner party that never ends, him in a toga the color of whipped cream, her in a stola dyed with Tyrian purple so vivid it looks wet. Between them, someone tucked a real sprig of laurel, crisp and silver green, the leaves still glossy. You lean closer. The scent is dizzying, like stepping into an herb shop at closing time. Laurel was sacred to Apollo. Victory, poetry, the works. But here it's also a gentle preservative. The oils keep mold at bay, and the symbolism keeps hope alive. Scholars nod sagely, yes, laurel in tombs, standard operating procedure for the optimistic dead. But the quirky detail. Someone braided a lock of human hair, fine chestnut still shining into the laurel stems. A lover's keepsake. A child's curl. The braid is tight, deliberate, the kind of knot you tie when you mean forever. Your lamp dances across the frescoes, and the painted vines seem to sway. There's a peacock, real feathers this time, pinned to the wall with an iron nail. The tail fans wide, each eye a perfect circle of emerald and gold. You've seen plastic versions in souvenir shops, but this one shivers when your breath grazes it, as if it might strut off the plaster and demand breadcrumbs. Nearby, a niche holds a cluster of clay lamps identical to yours, stacked like cookies in a jar. One still contains a puddle of ancient oil, thick as molasses, its surface filmed with dust motes that swirl when you exhale. You can't resist. You tip your own lamp to refill it. The clay lips kiss with a soft clink, and the flame steadies, grateful. The ancients believed light guided the soul. Running out mid-journey was considered rude. Modern translation, don't be the guy whose afterlife Uber gets cancelled for low battery. Stepping deeper, you find the back wall pierced by a small arched window, purely decorative, because what's a mausoleum without a view? Through it, a painted landscape rolls away, cypress trees, a distant villa, a sky brushed with peach and lavender. The artist even added a tiny dog chasing its tail in the foreground, tongue lolling in eternal loops. You laugh under your breath. Someone paid good sesterces for that dog, and it's still earning its keep. The unusual bit. The window frame is outlined in real gold leaf, thin as spider silk. Gold in a middle-class tomb is rare, usually reserved for emperors or lottery winners. Was this family flexing? Or did the painter owe them a favor and over-deliver? The dog offers no theories, only another joyful spin. The floor here is a riot of tessellated cubes, black, white, the occasional splash of terracotta, arranged in a pattern that looks random until you step back. A giant laurel wreath, leaves overlapping like scales on a sleepy dragon. Your feet find the path through the wreath center, and the cubes are cool, almost cold, as if the stone remembers winter. You pause to trace one leaf with your toe. The grout is worn smooth, polished by centuries of respectful sandals. Somewhere above, the Basilica's organ rumbles a low note that Viber Durantes, Ave Maria, the vibration traveling down through layers of brick and faith until it tickles the soles of your feet. Pagan laurel, Christian hymn, both humming in the same key. Historians love to debate whether the Vatican's architects knew exactly what they were building over. The foundations of St. Peter's sit directly atop these tombs. Some say it was coincidence, others say deliberate overlay, a quiet theological mic drop. The wreath beneath you keeps its own counsel. A side chamber opens to your left, barely large enough for two people and a modest ego. Inside, a single oil lamp burns on a shelf. Someone lit it decades ago during the excavations, and by some fluke of draft and fuel, it's still going. The flame is tiny, the size of a lentil, but steady as a heartbeat. You add a drop from your own lamp out of courtesy. The two flames bow to each other like old friends. On the shelf sits a wax tablet, the kind merchants used for IOUs. The stylus scratches are faint but legible. To my beloved Caecilia, bring honey cakes when you visit. The figs here are terrible. You grin. Even the afterlife has Yelp reviews. The mystery. The tablet is dated to 160 CE, but the lamp beside it is a 1940s archaeological replica. Someone mixed eras like a distracted bartender. Did a worker leave it burning as a joke, a prayer? The flame offers no footnotes. You emerge back into the main corridor, where the laurel scent has mellowed into something earthier, like a forest after rain. The tombs here are simpler, brick boxes with tile roofs, the ancient equivalent of garden sheds for eternity. One bears a carved inscription, "To the spirits of the departed, stop by any time." You have to hand it to the Romans. Their customer service was top-notch. Another tomb sports a small relief of a baker kneading dough, his belly proudly leading the way. You can almost smell the warm crust. The baker's wife added a postscript beneath. He burned the last batch. Do not trust his recipes. Marital banter, immortalized in stone, proof that some things never change. Your lamp is burning low again, the clay warm against your palm. You tilt it to check the reservoir. A single drop clings to the spout like it's negotiating for overtime. Ahead, the corridor widens into a circular chamber where 7 paths radiate like spokes. In the center, a shallow basin once held water for ritual washing. Now it's dry, but a single bay leaf floats on a film of dust, spinning lazily in the draft. You pluck it out. The leaf is papery, fragrant, the vein pattern delicate as frost. You tuck it behind your ear without thinking, and the guide raises an eyebrow. Careful, I say. Laurels for victors. You'll have to win something now. You shrug. The leaf stays. Somewhere in the dark, a night bird answers with a liquid trill, as if approving the theft. The air grows heavier, scented with myrtle and something metallic, iron maybe, or old blood long since turned to rust. You realize the laurel is only the overture. Deeper notes are waiting. Your lamp steadies, the flame stretching tall as if sensing an audience. The circular chamber's dome is painted with a starry sky, constellations picked out in gold that still glimmers. You spot Orion, the Pleiades, a wonky Scorpio that looks like it lost a fight with the painter's elbow. The stars feel close enough to touch, and for a moment you're floating between earth and sky, between then and now. The laurel behind your ear rustles, though there's no wind. You smile. The Necropolis is starting to feel like a friend who tells terrible jokes but means well. The laurel leaf tucked behind your ear gives a conspiratorial rustle as you step away from the starry dome, its scent now braided with the warmer, milk-sweet smell of fresh plaster. The corridor narrows again, the brick walls brushing your shoulders like a gentle usher saying, "This way, no dawdling." Your lamp, newly topped up with that stubborn drop of oil, throws a halo just wide enough to catch the glint of something colorful ahead. A low doorway painted the cheerful red of pomegranate seeds. You duck under the lintel and find yourself in a space no larger than a modern walk-in closet, yet every inch sings with tenderness. The guide, me, still trailing cedar and a soft chuckle, rests a fingertip against the frescoed wall. "Careful where you breathe," I whisper. "This room was built for someone who never quite grew up." You kneel, because the ceiling demands it, and the floor meets you with a mosaic of tiny tesserae, white, rose, the pale gold of morning toast. The pattern is a school of dolphins leaping in perfect arcs, their bellies brushed with mother of pearl that catches your lamp and scatters it like spilled sugar. In the center of the room sits a miniature sarcophagus, no longer than your forearm, carved from soft travertine the color of fresh cream. The lid shows a child reclining on a cushion, one chubby hand curled around a bunch of grapes so realistic you can almost taste the dust of summer. Someone draped a real ribbon across the stone, faded crimson silk, frayed but intact, tied in a bow that has outlasted empires. Scholars agree, child burials in the necropolis were common. High infant mortality meant parents prepared early and grieved often. But the quirky detail. The ribbon is knotted with a sailor's hitch, the kind used on ships, not swaddling clothes. Was the father a merchant mariner? Did the child dream of the sea before dreams ended? The bow keeps its secret, fluttering faintly when you exhale. Your lamp drifts upward, revealing the walls alive with a painted garden. Roses bloom in impossible December reds, their petals edged in gold leaf so thin it looks wet. Between the roses, tiny hares nibble clover, ears cocked as if listening for footsteps that will never come. One hare has a comically oversized carrot clutched like a trophy. The artist clearly had a sense of humor and a soft spot for lunch. You smile, and the smile feels like trespassing on private joy. In the corner, a peacock, smaller than the last, almost shy, fans a tail of only 7 eyes, each painted with a dot of real lapis. 7, the mystical number, the planets, the days it took to create a world. Coincidence? Probably not. The child's family wanted every advantage money and symbolism could buy. On a narrow shelf above the sarcophagus sits a collection of toys so perfectly preserved you half expect a curator to scold you for staring. There's a clay horse on wheels, its mane painted black with charcoal ink. The wheels still turn with a soft click when you nudge them. Next to it, a rag doll stitched from linen, its face embroidered with 2 button eyes and a lopsided grin. Someone stuffed it with lavender. You catch the ghost of the scent when you lean close, and the fabric is worn thin at the elbows, proof of fierce hugging. The unusual find, a tiny bronze bell no bigger than a hazelnut, tied to the doll's wrist with crimson thread. When you lift the doll, gently, reverently, the bell gives a single, silvery chime that hangs in the air like a held breath. Archaeologists found bells in adult graves too, but rarely attached to toys. Was it to call the nurses in the afterlife, to scare away nightmares, or just because every child deserves music? The bell refuses to ring twice. It's saving the encore. The air in here is warmer, as if the painted sun on the ceiling actually gives off heat. You notice a small ventilation shaft no wider than your fist, cunningly hidden behind a cluster of roses. Through it drifts the faintest lullaby of wind chimes from the Basilica's sacristy garden far above, modern metal, but the tone is the same. Past and present humming a duet for a child who never heard either. You set the doll back exactly as you found it, smoothing the lavender-scented skirt. The horse's wheels give one last click, like a quiet thank you. Stepping to the back wall, you discover a shallow niche painted to look like an open window. Beyond the sill stretches a make-believe seascape, sapphire waves, a trireme with crimson sails, and there it is again, that dolphin with the gold-flecked eye. The dolphin leaps toward a tiny island where a miniature version of the child stands waving, grape still in hand. The artist captured the exact moment of joy before the splash. You feel your throat tighten. Someone loved this child enough to paint an eternity of playtime. The mystery lingers in the island's single tree. It's a laurel, of course, but its leaves are shaped like tiny hearts. Botanical accuracy be damned. Affection trumps taxonomy. Was it the mother's signature, the father's promise? The tree sways when your lamp flickers, though the air is still. Your knees protest the prolonged crouch, so you sit cross-legged on the dolphin mosaic, the cool tesserae pressing friendly circles into your skin. From this angle you spot something tucked beneath the sarcophagus, a wax tablet no larger than a postcard, its surface scratched with a child's unsteady letters. You angle the lamp. "Mama, I saw a boat today. IT had red sails, love, Titus." The letters are wobbly, the T backward, the S a brave zigzag. Scholars confirm Titus was a common name, and red sails were fashionable on pleasure yachts. But the tablet's presence under the sarcophagus is odd. Usually such notes were burned or buried separately. Did Titus write it the day before fever took him? Did Mama slip it beneath the stone so he'd have something to read on the ferry across the Styx? The wax is cracked but intact, the words still legible, still urgent. You rest your palm on the sarcophagus lid. The stone is warm, as if the child's dreams still radiate. Somewhere above, a tourist's camera flash leaks down a ventilation shaft, painting the dolphins momentarily silver. You blink away the glare and notice a final detail. The ribbon's bow is tied with a second, almost invisible thread, gold this time, so fine it's nearly invisible. Gold thread in a child's tomb is extravagant, reserved for imperial nurseries. Was this family secretly wealthy? Or did a grieving emperor pass by and leave a token? The thread glints when you move the lamp, a secret Morse code of privilege or pity. The lavender scent is fading, replaced by the clean, mineral smell of underground springs. You rise slowly, knees popping like distant fireworks, and the dolphins seem to watch you go. The guide appears in the doorway, silhouetted against the corridor's deeper dark. "Time to let the kids sleep," I murmur. "He's got sailing lessons at dawn. Eternal dawn, no detentions." You nod, reluctant, and step back over the pomegranate threshold. The bell on the doll gives one last, accidental chime as the draft from your passing kisses it goodbye. You carry the sound with you, light as a bubble, sweet as grapes. The child's bell fades behind you, a silver coin dropped into deep water, and the corridor answers with a hush so complete you can hear your own pulse. The air cools, thickens, carrying a new note, something sharp and metallic, like a knife drawn across wet stone. Your lamp, now riding low on its last swallow of oil, gutters once and steadies, as if steeling itself. The guide, still me, cedar scent now edged with something darker, rests a hand on the small of your back. "Left here," I murmur. "Mind the drop. The bull doesn't like clumsy guests." You turn, and the brickwork changes, narrower, older, the mortar blackened by centuries of smoke. The passage slopes downward in a gentle spiral, each step worn into a shallow scoop by countless sandals. Your lamp reveals faint grooves along the walls, parallel scratches, 7 in a row, repeated every few paces. Finger width, deliberate. Initiates marking their progress through the grades, perhaps, the Mithraic ladder from crow to father. Scholars agree the cult of Mithras flourished here in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, a soldier's religion imported from Persia and retooled for Roman discipline. But the quirky detail. One set of scratches ends in a tiny carved bull's head, horns chipped but proud. Someone reached the top and left a calling card. You run a thumb over the horns. The stone is warm, as if the initiate's hand lingered a moment ago. The spiral tightens, and the ceiling drops until you stoop. The air grows humid, tasting of iron and wet clay. Your lamp finally sighs its last, the wick drowning in a bead of oil, but before panic sets in, a glow appears ahead, soft, reddish, steady. You emerge into a long, vaulted chamber no wider than a subway car, its walls washed in ochre light from 7 clay lamps hung on bronze chains. The chains sway though there's no draft. The lamps swing like slow pendulums, counting heartbeats. In the center, carved from a single block of tufa, stands the Tauroctony, Mithras in his Phrygian cap, knees pinning the cosmic bull, dagger plunging into its shoulder. The bull's eye is inlaid with obsidian black, liquid alive. Blood, painted in cinnabar, spurts in perfect arcs, caught mid-flight by the artist's brush. You've seen postcards of this scene, but here the scale is intimate, almost claustrophobic. The god's face is turned toward you, and for a heartbeat, you swear the lips curve in faint amusement, as if he's been expecting company. You step closer. The floor is paved with black and white mosaics. A serpent coils around a globe, a lion laps at a crater, a crow perches on a broken column. The 7 planets, the 7 grades, the 7 lamps, everything in sevens, because Mithras doesn't do subtle. Scholars nod. The cult was exclusive, all-male, hierarchical, fond of secret handshakes and star charts. But the unusual touch, one mosaic tile, a single white square, has been replaced with a shard of green glass, bottle-thick, sea-worn. Someone brought a piece of the ocean underground, a private offering from a sailor who missed the tide. You crouch. The glass is cool, slick, smelling faintly of salt when you breathe on it. Was it contraband? A dare? The serpent's tail curls protectively around the shard, as if guarding the memory of waves. To your left, a stone bench runs the length of the wall, long enough for 12 men, the perfect symposium without women or wine. The bench is carved with reliefs, a raven delivering a message, a lion devouring a hare, a youth holding a torch upside down. You sit, carefully because eternity is watching, and the stone is warm, almost hot, from the lamps above. Someone left a real torch here unlit, its pine pitch still fragrant. You lift it. The weight is perfect, balanced for a soldier's grip. The guide leans over your shoulder. Grade of miles, I say. Soldier, you'd start here, oath, blood, a slap on the back hard enough to rattle teeth. Promotion came with better snacks. You smile. The torch smells like camping, like stories told around fires that haven't been lit in 1700 years. At the far end, a niche holds a shallow basin filled with dark liquid. Wine, thick with sediment, its surface filmed with dust. Beside it, a loaf the size of a hockey puck, petrified but intact, raisins peeking like tiny black eyes. The meal of the pater, the highest grade, shared in silence. You dip a finger. The wine has turned to vinegar syrup, sharp enough to make your eyes water. Scholars confirm the banquet was symbolic, a communion of bread and wine centuries before Christianity claimed the recipe. But the mystery. Someone pressed a coin into the loaf before it hardened, a copper as worn smooth, the emperor's face erased. Payment for the ferryman, a tip for the god. The loaf crumbles slightly under your touch, releasing a puff of yeast and thyme. The lamps swing faster now, though the air is still. Shadows leap across the tauroctony, the dog lunging, the scorpion pinching, the twins' courts and quarterpates raising and lowering their torches in eternal dawn-dusk relay. You notice the bull's tail ends in 3 wheat stalks, life springing from death, the oldest magic trick. But one stalk is broken, snapped clean. Accident, vandalism, or a quiet protest from an initiate who didn't buy the party line. The break is clean, deliberate, the edges sharp. You run a finger along it. The stone is cool, almost damp. Somewhere water drips, plink, into an unseen cistern, the same heartbeat you heard earlier, older now, patient. Behind the relief, a narrow alcove barely visible. You squeeze through, shoulders brushing stone, and find a second, smaller chamber. The air here is thick with frankincense, cloying, sweet. A single lamp burns on a pedestal, its flame blue-white, unnatural. On the floor lies a pile of bully, small lead seals once attached to documents, now scattered like confetti. Each bears the same stamp, a lion-headed figure wrapped in a serpent, mouth open in a silent roar. The Leontos feline, guardian of time, devourer of hours. You pick one up. It's heavier than it looks, cold as winter iron. The unusual detail. One buller is pierced cleanly through the lion's eye, as if someone needed a pendant in a hurry. You slip it into your pocket before common sense objects. The metal warms instantly against your skin. The guide's voice drifts in, softer than before. 7 grades, 7 lamps, 7 chances to get it right. Most never made pater, some never made it out. You glance back. The tauroctony seems to watch, the bull's obsidian eye reflecting your lamp's ghost. You realize the chamber has no obvious exit, only the way you came, and a slit in the ceiling too narrow for shoulders. Initiates entered blindfolded, led by the hand. You imagine the disorientation, the trust, the sudden reveal of the god in flickering light. Your own lamp sputters back to life, impossible, but the wick catches a stray drop, and you retrace your steps. The bull's blood seems to pulse as you pass, cinnabar bright as fresh paint. Emerging into the spiral passage, the air lightens, the frankincense fading into cool stone. Your pocket weighs heavier. The pierced buller knocks gently against your thigh with each step. The guide falls in beside you, silent now, the cedar scent returning like a familiar coat. Ahead, the corridor widens, and you hear faint music. Sistrum rattle, distant, dreamy. The child's dolphins feel a lifetime away. You touch the laurel leaf still tucked behind your ear. It's wilted but intact, a green ticket to the next mystery. The spiral passage levels out, and the air shifts again. Warm, honey-sweet, threaded with the scent of toasted sesame and something citrusy that makes your mouth water before you even see the source. The buller in your pocket gives a soft clink against the bronze torch you're still carrying, as if reminding you it's along for the ride. The guide, me, cedar now laced with a hint of garlic, steers you right with a gentle nudge. Dinner's this way, I say. Try not to drool on the dead. They're sensitive about table manners. You step through a low archway framed in faded green paint, once verdigris, now the color of old pennies, and enter a rectangular chamber that feels less like a tomb and more like a private dining club that forgot to close. The ceiling is low, vaulted in brick, and every inch is painted with a banquet scene so vivid you half expect the guests to turn and offer you a seat. They recline on couches upholstered in illusionary crimson, platters heaped with painted figs, roast peacock, and a fish so detailed you can count the scales. In the center of the real floor sits a stone table the size of a coffee table, its surface worn smooth by centuries of elbows. Around it, 7 stone couches, exactly 7 because Mithras apparently RSVP'd, are arranged in a loose horseshoe. Each couch is carved with a shallow depression for the hip and a raised bolster for the head, the ancient version of memory foam. You run a hand over one. The stone is warm, sun-baked even underground. On the table, someone has set a real meal, or what's left of it. A shallow terracotta bowl holds a puddle of dark liquid, thick as molasses, its surface crusted with sugar crystals that glitter when your lamp, miraculously refilled again, don't ask, catches them. You lean in, mulsum, honeyed wine, the Roman welcome drink. Beside it, a loaf the size of a dinner plate, fossilized into granite hardness, its crust split in a perfect smile. Embedded in the crust, 3 whole figs, petrified but plump, their seeds like tiny black pearls. Scholars confirm the refrigerium, the ritual meal for the dead, was standard in pagan necropolis. Family members returned on anniversaries to pour libations through tubes straight into the grave. But the quirky detail. 1 fig has been sliced open, cleanly, recently, and the flesh inside is still purple, still moist. Someone's been picnicking in the last decade. You catch a whiff of yeast and fermentation. The fig smells like a farmer's market in July. You ease onto a couch, carefully, because eternity is watching, and the stone fits your body like it was waiting. The bolster cradles your head at the perfect angle to study the ceiling fresco. A woman in a saffron veil pours wine from a golden jug while a peacock fans its tail behind her. Her eyes are painted with kohl so sharp they follow you when you shift. To your left, a libation tube, lead, thumb thick, runs straight through the table into the floor. You peer down. It disappears into darkness, presumably connecting to an urn below. The tube is stained purple inside, the color of communion wine and stubborn grapes. You imagine generations of descendants returning on the parentalia, the February festival of the dead, toasting absent grandparents with the same vintage. Modern equivalent, leaving a slice of birthday cake on the grave. Same sentiment, less plumbing. The guide settles opposite you, legs crossed, producing a small clay cup from nowhere. Try the mulsum, I say, ladling a thimbleful from the bowl. The liquid is syrupy, sweet with a kick of vinegar at the finish, like dessert wine that's been to therapy. You sip, it coats your tongue, warm as a hug. Go easy, I warn. That stuff's been aging since Vespasian, potent enough to wake the dead, and trust me, they're terrible tippers. You laugh, and the sound bounces off the painted peacock like a friendly echo. On the wall behind you, a niche holds a stack of wax tablets, each the size of a postcard, bound with crimson cord. You untie one, grocery lists mostly. 2 amphorae Falonian, 1 suckling pig, extra garum. Don't forget the silphium. Silphium, the extinct laser spice worth its weight in silver. Someone was flexing. Another tablet records a bet. If the Reds win the chariot race, Lucius owes Marcia a pearl earring. The Reds, fact, a real racing faction. The mystery. A 3rd tablet, blank except for a single thumbprint in red ochre pressed deep. Was it a signature, a blood oath? The print is small, child-sized, maybe the same Titus from the dolphin tomb. You press your own thumb beside it. The ochre is still tacky, cool, smelling faintly of iron. The print doesn't match, but the gesture feels like shaking hands across centuries. The table's centerpiece is a silver crater no larger than a teapot, its handles shaped like leaping hares. Inside, a handful of pine nuts float in a film of oil. You fish one out. It's soft, almost fresh, tasting of resin and Christmas. Pine nuts were sacred to Cybele, but here they're just snacks. The unusual bit: one nut is carved into a tiny bull, horns, hooves, even a grumpy expression. Someone had time, steady hands, and a sense of humor. You pocket it beside the bull clinks against the lion like old friends. A soft clatter draws your eye to the far couch. A clay cup has tipped, spilling a single drop of wine that rolls across the table in slow motion, defying gravity, until it reaches the libation tube and vanishes with a satisfied plink. You blink. The cup rights itself. Draft, probably, or the dead are thirsty. The guide raises an eyebrow. See, terrible tippers, but great magicians. You grin, and the mulsum warms your stomach like a second as the painted woman on the ceiling lifts her jug in silent toast. The air grows heavier, scented with bread and citrus peel. You notice a small brazier in the corner, charcoal long cold, but the ghosts of bay leaves curl in the ash. Someone burned herbs to keep the meal sacred. You lean back, the stone couch cradling you like an old friend, and realize the frescoed guests are starting to look familiar. The child with grapes, the sailor with the dolphin, the baker with the burnt batch. The Necropolis is knitting itself into a single tapestry, thread by thread. Your lamp flickers, casting long shadows that dance with the painted ones. The peacock's tail feathers seem to rustle, though the air is still. You rise reluctantly, knees stiff from the stone's embrace. The guide offers a hand. The cedar scent is stronger now, mixed with warm bread. Next course is lighter, I promise. But bring your appetite. The dead hate leftovers. You step over the libation tube, careful not to drip, and the mulsum's sweetness lingers on your tongue like a secret. Behind you, the crater's hairs seem to twitch, ready to leap. The meal isn't over, it's just waiting for the next guest. The mulsum's honeyed warmth still clings to your tongue as you leave the banquet chamber, the silver crater's hairs frozen mid-leap behind you. The corridor widens, and the air lightens, cooler now, threaded with a resinous bite that reminds you of Christmas trees and old churches. Your lamp, ever the stubborn survivor, flares brighter, as if offended by the darkness ahead. The guide, me, cedar now laced with a whisper of turpentine, falls into step beside you. Smell that, I murmur. Pine. Someone's been decorating for eternity. Hope you like tinsel. You round a corner, and the Necropolis opens into a long, airy gallery where the tombs stand like elegant townhouses, each with its own pediment and painted facade. The floor here is a checkerboard of black basalt and white marble, polished to a mirror sheen by centuries of respectful feet. Your reflection slides beneath you, distorted, as if the dead are waving hello. Along the walls, niches hold glass urns filled with ashes and, there it is, the unmistakable shimmer of peacock feathers. Not painted this time, but real, iridescent eyes of emerald and cobalt, some still attached to quills thick as your thumb. One feather lies across a tomb's threshold like a dropped fan. You stoop to pick it up. The barbs are soft, almost fur-like, and when you twirl it, the colors shift like oil on water. Scholars agree peacock feathers symbolized immortality, Juno's bird ferrying souls to the stars. But the quirky detail: someone braided 3 feathers together with gold wire, the kind used for imperial diadems. The braid is tight professional, palace work, not amateur grief. Was this tomb for a courtier? A gift from an empress with a soft spot for plumage. The gold glints when your lamp passes, a private fireworks show. You tuck the braided feathers behind your ear, joining the wilted laurel leaf in a makeshift crown. The guide smirks. Careful, You're starting to look like a minor deity. Next you'll demand sacrifices, preferably chocolate. You grin, and the feathers rustle like they agree. The tomb before you is modest but proud, brick-faced with marble plaques, its door framed by carved pine cones the size of your fist. Pine cones, symbols of rebirth, the theosis of Dionysus, the promise that spring follows winter. Someone nailed a real cone to the door with an iron spike. The cone is split open, seeds long gone, but the scent still clings, sharp and sappy. You press your nose to it. The resin sticks to your skin like pine pitch on a camper's fingers. The unusual bit. Inside the cone's hollow, someone tucked a tiny clay whistle shaped like a bird. You blow gently, no sound, but the air vibrates, a ghost of a trill. Was it for the soul's journey? A toy for the afterlife's long nights? The whistle warms in your palm, as if remembering music. Stepping inside, the chamber is smaller than the banquet hall but brighter, lit by a clerestory slit high in the wall. Dust motes dance in the shaft of light like golden gnats. The sarcophagus here is plain limestone, but its lid is painted with a single peacock strutting across a field of stars. The bird's tail sweeps the entire length, each eye a perfect circle of lapis and gold. You lean close, one eye's chipped, revealing a layer of real shell beneath, iridescent, like the feathers on the wall. The painter used actual peacock shell, ground fine and mixed with egg tempera. Extravagant, obsessive, the ancient equivalent of gilding the lily. On the floor, a scattering of pine needles, real ones, brown and brittle, but still fragrant when you crush one underfoot. The scent floods the chamber, sharp enough to make your eyes water. Scholars confirm pine was burned at funerals to mask odors and honor the dead. But the mystery? The needles are arranged in a perfect circle around the sarcophagus. No gaps, no overlap. Someone swept them into place recently, decades ago maybe, during an excavation. Did a worker leave a quiet offering? A priest with a broom and a sense of symmetry. The circle holds its shape-shaped secret. You sit on the chamber's single stone bench, the pine scent wrapping around you like a blanket. From here, you spot a small libation altar built into the wall, a shallow basin with a lead pipe disappearing into the floor. Someone poured something thick, honey maybe, because the basin is glazed with amber crystals that catch the light like frozen sunlight. You scrape a flake with your nail, it dissolves on your tongue, sweet and waxy with a hint of smoke. Modern beekeepers would weep. The guide leans in the doorway, arms crossed. That's resin honey, I say. Pine resin, wild thyme, a dash of desperation. The dead loved it. So did the bees until the trees died out. You nod, licking the last grains from your lip. The honey tastes like a forest at twilight. The back wall holds a fresco you nearly missed, a garden at night, moon silver on cypress trees, a peacock perched on a sundial. The dial's shadow points to the Roman numeral Roman 7. 7 again, always 7. But the quirky detail. The peacock is missing one tail feather, and in its place, someone painted a tiny pine cone, brown against the iridescence. A substitution, a joke, a mistake corrected centuries too late. You laugh under your breath. The bird looks mildly offended. Above the fresco, a ventilation shaft carries the faintest echo of church bells from St. Peter's. Vespers, maybe, the sound muffled but unmistakable. Pagan peacocks and Christian bronze, sharing the same air shaft like neighbors who nod politely. You rise, knees creaking, and notice a final gift, a pine cone pendant on a leather cord hanging from a nail beside the door. The cone is carved from boxwood, polished smooth, its scales picked out in gold paint. You slip it over your head. It settles against your chest, warm from the chamber's trapped sunlight. The guide raises an eyebrow. "Souvenir limits 3, I tease. "You're pushing it." You shrug. The pendant stays. The feathers behind your ear flutter as you step back into the gallery, the pine scent trailing you like a friendly dog. The checkerboard floor reflects the feathers' colors, turning your footsteps into a slow kaleidoscope. Ahead, the corridor curves toward a faint metallic jingle, sistrum, maybe, or something older. The pine cone pendant knocks pricks your skin with every heartbeat, a tiny compass pointing deeper. You touch it once, twice, and the Necropolis answers with a breath of cool air, scented with distant salt. The peacocks are watching, but they don't seem to mind. The pine cone pendant taps a steady rhythm against your chest as the gallery curves left, the checkerboard floor giving way to a mosaic of river stones. Smooth, grey, and cool, each one the size of a silver dollar. The air turns damp, carrying the mineral tang of moving water and the faint, metallic jingle you've been chasing. Your lamp, now burning with the stubborn cheer of a candle that refuses to admit its bedtime, picks out flecks of mica in the stones that wink like fish scales. The guide, me, cedar now laced with lotus and river silt, slows to let you catch the scent. "Smell that," I murmur. Nile water, Roman traffic jam, and a dash of desperation. ISIS is in town. You step through a narrow doorway framed by lotus columns. Painted, not carved, but so delicate the petals look ready to unfurl. The chamber beyond is long and low, its ceiling painted the deep indigo of a pre-dawn sky. Along the walls, frescoes flow like a silent film, ships with furled sails, priests in white linen, a woman with a throne on her head pouring water from a golden jug. Isis, mother, magician, mistress of the sea. The river stones underfoot shift to a pattern of waves, blue tesserae curling into white foam, a tiny silver fish leaping the crest. You pause. The fish is real silver leaf, tarnished but gleaming. Scholars agree the Isiac cult boomed in Rome after Cleopatra's visit, promising rebirth and safe passage across any water, literal or otherwise. But the quirky detail. One wave is outlined in crushed malachite, green as envy, expensive as sin. Someone wanted the goddess to notice. At the chamber's heart stands a marble altar no higher than your waist, its surface carved into a shallow basin. Inside, water, actual water, lies perfectly still, reflecting your lamp like a dark mirror. You lean over. Your face wavers beside the painted Isis on the opposite wall. The water smells of lotus and something greener, like crushed watercress. A single sistrum, bronze, palm-sized, rests on the altar's edge, its wires threaded with tiny silver rings that chime when you breathe. You lift it. The sound is soft, hypnotic, the rattle of rain on a temple roof. The unusual bit. One ring is missing, replaced by a bead of red coral shaped like a tiny heart. Coral was sacred to Isis, born from the blood of Medusa, protector against drowning. You slip the sistrum over your wrist. The coral heart knocks against your pulse. The guide settles on the altar's step, legs dangling like a kid at the dark. Initiates came here at moonrise, I say. Blindfolded, barefoot, hearts hammering louder than the sistrum. They drank the sacred water, Nile water supposedly, and waited for the goddess to speak. Sometimes she did. Sometimes it was just the plumbing. You smile, and the sistrum answers with a liquid shiver. You dip a finger into the basin. The water is cool, almost icy, and when you lift it out, a single lotus petal, real, pink, impossibly fresh, clings to your skin. You tuck it behind your ear with the peacock feathers and wilted laurel. The guide raises an eyebrow. You're collecting a whole bouquet. Careful the guards don't invoice you. Along the back wall, a procession unfolds in paint, women in white, men in leopard skins, children carrying tiny anks. One child, barely knee-high, holds a model boat no longer than your hand, its sail stitched with the Isis knot. The boat is real wood, cedar maybe, and when you touch it, the sail lifts as if catching a breeze that isn't there. The mystery. The boat's hull is scarred with a single Greek letter, theta, the mark of death. Was it a toy for the afterlife's voyage, a warning to sailors? The cedar smells of tide pools and distant ports. You set the boat gently back, it rocks once, twice, then stills. A narrow side passage opens to your left, barely wide enough for shoulders. You squeeze through, sistrum chiming softly, and emerge into a smaller shrine. The air here is thick with incense. Myrrh, heavy and sweet, the scent of temple mornings. A life-sized statue of Isis stands in an alcove, her marble veil so thin you can see the curve of her shoulder beneath. In her arms, baby Harpocrates presses a finger to his lips. Silence, always silence. At her feet, a pile of offerings, a clay Nile goose, a bronze mirror, a single sandal worn smooth at the heel. You pick up the sandal, the leather is soft, almost new, the sole imprinted with a tiny lotus. Someone walked here recently, archaeologist, priest, or ghost with bunions. The goose honks when you nudge it, hollow, a hidden whistle. You blow, the sound is mournful, a goose flying over dark water. The guide's voice drifts in, softer now. The initiates swore oaths here. 40 days of fasting, cold baths, no garlic, rough gig. Then the rebirth, carried through the underworld in a coffin, woken by the goddess's kiss. Or so the sails pitch Chinese letter. You grin. The sistrum rattles in agreement. You notice a final detail. The statue's eyes are inlaid with rock crystal, and in the left eye a tear real water has gathered, trembling but never falling. Condensation, a hidden spring. The tear catches your lamp and throws a tiny rainbow across the wall. You reach out, not quite touching, and the tear holds, patient as the Nile. Emerging back into the main chamber, the river stones cool underfoot. The water in the basin has risen, imperceptibly, but the lotus petal you tucked behind your ear is now floating on the surface, spinning lazily. You watch it turn, the sistrum's chime sinking with the soft lap of water against marble. Somewhere above, St. Peter's bells toll the hour, the sound muffled but clear, like a memory of home. Isis and Peter, sharing the same underground river. The guide stands, brushing imaginary dust from their cloak. Next stop's quieter, I promise, but bring the sistrum. The goddess likes souvenirs. You step over the threshold, the lotus petal drifting behind you like a pink compass. The pine cone pendant taps once, the peacock feathers shimmer, and the corridor ahead darkens into a painted garden that smells of roses and secrets. The sistrum on your wrist gives one last, sleepy chime as you cross the threshold, and the river stones fade into soft earth. Real earth, dark and loamy, scattered with crushed rose petals that release a perfume so heady you feel it behind your eyes. Your lamp, now burning with the calm of a nightlight that's decided to stay up late, reveals a chamber shaped like an oval locket. The ceiling curves low, painted the tender green of new leaves, and every inch of wall blooms with a garden that never wilts. Roses climb in impossible profusion. Scarlet, blush, the creamy white of old piano keys, their thorns picked out in real gold leaf that catches your flame and throws it back in warm sparks. The guide, me, cedar now sweetened with rosewater, leans against a painted trellis. "Welcome to the forever spring," I murmur. "No allergies, no aphids, no hoa. Try not to sneeze on the artwork." You step forward, and the floor gives slightly. Packed earth over brick, cool and forgiving, like walking on a well-tended grave. A path of pale marble chips winds between the frescoed beds, each chip the size of a coin and worn round by centuries of careful feet. You follow it, petals brushing your ankles though nothing real touches you. In the center stands a marble fountain no larger than a bird bath, its basin carved into a single open rose. Water, clear, fragrant, trickles from the heart of the flower, fed by a hidden lead pipe that gurgles like a contented cat. You cup your hands. The water is cool, tasting faintly of iron and petals. A single rose petal floats on the surface, spinning lazily, the same pink as the lotus you left behind. Scholars agree garden frescoes were standard in wealthy Roman tombs, paradise in miniature, a promise of Elysian shade. But the quirky detail. Someone tucked a real silver coin, denarius, Trajan's profile, under the fountain's lip. You fish it out. The metal is warm, the emperor's nose rubbed smooth by countless thumbs. Payment for the gardener, a tip for Charon. The coin dries quickly, leaving a faint scent of roses on your skin. The guide settles on the fountain's rim, legs swinging. Initiates came here after the Isis rebirth, I say. Blindfolds off, eyes wide, hearts still racing. They'd sit, drink the water and wait for the garden to speak. Sometimes it whispered, sometimes it just smelled nice. You smile, and the sistrum answers with a soft rustle. You notice the fountain's overflow disappears through a grating into darkness, straight down, probably feeding the Necropolis cisterns. Practical Romans, even paradise recycles. Along the left wall, a trellis of painted vines supports a riot of roses, but one vine is different, real ivy, dried but intact, threaded through the plaster like green stitches. You touch a leaf, it crumbles to dust, releasing a puff of peppery scent. Ivy for Dionysus, roses for Venus. Someone hedged their bets. The unusual bit. Tucked among the ivy leaves, a tiny wax tablet no larger than a matchbox. You ease it free, a love note, scratched in hasty cursive. Meet me under the roses at moonrise. Bring wine. See. The sea is flourished, confident. Scholars would call this graffiti, the lovers called it Tuesday. You slip the tablet into your pocket beside the pine cone bull and the pierced bulla. The ivy seems to sigh, relieved of its secret. The right wall holds a surprise, a painted door life-sized, ajar just enough to show a slice of starlit sky beyond. The door is rendered so perfectly, wood grain, bronze hinges, even a shadow under the latch, that you reach out, half expecting a knob. Your fingers meet cool plaster, but the illusion holds. Behind the door, the frescoed sky is scattered with constellations. Orion, the Pleiades, a wonky Scorpio again. One star is picked out in real gold leaf, brighter than the rest. You lean close. It's a tiny mirror, no larger than a fingernail, reflecting your lamp and your eye in the same breath. The mystery. The mirror is cracked, hairline fracture deliberate. Someone wanted the star to twinkle forever. You blow gently. The mirror catches the breath and throws it back as a shimmer of light across the roses. You sit on a stone bench shaped like a fallen log, moss painted in shades of emerald and jade. The bench is warm, sun-trapped even underground, and from here you can see the garden's clever trick. Every rose is slightly different. One has a dewdrop of clear glass glued to a petal. Another hides a tiny painted bee, wings blurred as if in flight. The artist signed nothing, but the love is loud. The guide stretches beside you, arms behind their head. This was the VIP section, I say. Family plot for someone who could afford eternal landscaping. No weeds, no wilting, no awkward small talk with cousins. You laugh, and the sound startles a painted nightingale into silence. A soft clink draws your eye to the fountain. The silver coin you left on the rim has vanished, replaced by a single white rose petal, edges tipped with gold. You blink. The petal wasn't there a moment ago. Draft, maybe. Or the garden keeps its own accounts. You pick it up. The gold is real leaf, thin as breath, and the petal is impassably soft, like the inside of a seashell. You tuck it behind your ear with the peacock feathers, the wilted laurel, the lotus. The guide whistles low. You're one accessory away from a coronation, I tease. Try not to start a cult. The air grows heavier, scented with earth and crushed petals. You notice a final detail beneath the bench. Someone scratched a game board into the marble. Mill again, the grooves worn smooth. Beside it, a single word in Greek, Phi Iota Lambda Omicron Sigma, friend. You rest your fingers in the grooves, feeling the ghost of countless games. Above, St. Peter's organ rumbles a distant amen, the vibration traveling through brick and rose roots until it tickles the soles of your feet. Pagan garden, Christian stone, both blooming in the same soil. The guide stands, brushing imaginary pollen from their cloak. Next room's cooler, I promise, but bring the bouquet, the dead like flowers. You rise, knees soft, and the marble chips crunch underfoot like sugar. The painted door seems to swing wider as you pass, the cracked mirror star winking goodbye. The garden's perfume clings to your skin, sweet and indelible, as the corridor narrows toward the scent of horses and distant thunder. The rose perfume thins as you leave the garden, replaced by the sharp, unmistakable tang of oiled leather and warm horse. The marble chips give way to packed clay, reddish and springy, the kind of surface that once drank the sweat of parade grounds. Your lamp, now glowing with the steady patience of a trusted old dog, picks out hoofprints pressed into the clay, deep, proud, the iron nails still visible as tiny crescents. The guide, me, cedar now laced with saddle soap, rests a hand on your shoulder. Easy, I murmur. The equites are napping. They hate being woken before the trumpet. You step into a long, barrel-vaulted chamber where the walls rise like the ribs of a giant beast. Every rib is faced with marble plaques, each the size of a dinner tray, and every plaque bears a name in crisp Latin capitals. M. Valerius Maximus, ex singularis Augusti, lived 27 years, served 9. The letters are edged in red paint, still bright, as if the ink dried yesterday. Between the plaques, frescoes gallop across the plaster, riders in gleaming cuirasses, horses with braided manes, lances tipped with pennants that snap in a painted wind. One horse rears, forelegs pawing the air, and the artist caught the exact moment of power. The nostrils flared, the eye wild with painted fire. You reach out. The plaster is cool, but the horse feels warm, as if it might bolt and carry you with it. Scholars agree the equites singulares were the emperor's personal cavalry, hand-picked, well-paid, buried with honor. But the quirky detail. One rider's lance is tipped with a real bronze leaf, razor-thin, still sharp. Someone swapped the paint for metal, a private upgrade. You touch the edge, it kisses your fingertip with a promise of blood. At the chamber's heart stands a single marble sarcophagus, longer than the others, its lid carved into a rider leaning forward in the saddle, one hand raised in salute. The horse beneath him is mid-stride, muscles rippling under stone skin. The rider's face is worn smooth, centuries of kisses from grieving fingers, but the horse's eye is inlaid with obsidian, black and liquid, watching you. On the sarcophagus front, a relief shows the same rider charging a boar, spear lowered, cloak streaming like a comet. The boar's tusks are real ivory, yellowed but intact. You lean close, the ivory smells faintly of smoke and apples. The unusual bit: someone tucked a tiny bronze spur under the horse's belly, hidden unless you kneel. You fish it out. The roll still spins, tinkling like distant spurs on cobblestones. Was it the rider's favorite? A gift from a squire? The spur warms in your palm, eager for a heel that will never come. You circle the sarcophagus, and the floor changes to a mosaic of the vire appear at dawn. Paving stones, cypress shadows, a milestone marked Roman 13. The rider's route, perhaps, from the city to his final posting. One paving stone is loose, real travertine, not mosaic, and when you nudge it with your toe, it lifts to reveal a hollow. Inside, a clay flask, stoppered with wax, and a wax tablet. You ease them out. The flask sloshes. Pasca, the soldier's vinegar water, still sharp after centuries. You sniff. It smells like a legionary's canteen at the end of a long march. The tablet reads, "To Maximus, bring the good wine next time. The Pasca here is terrible. Gaius." Same handwriting as the garden love note, but rougher, hurried. Gaius again, friend, comrade, maybe lover. The mystery. The tablet is dated Roman 9 Cal. Mart, the day before the IDs. Maximus died in February, wine undrunk. You set the flask back, Pasca untouched, and the stone settles with a soft click. The guide perches on the sarcophagus edge, boots dangling. These boys lived fast, I say. Parades, bodyguard duty, the occasional emperor who needed impressing. Died faster. Average age, 25. Retirement plan, a nice tomb and a horse that never tires. You grin, and the obsidian eye seems to wink. You notice a niche beside the sarcophagus, a bronze helmet, cheek guards tied with leather thongs, the crest still holding a horsehair plume dyed imperial purple. The plume is faded but proud. You lift the helmet. It's heavier than it looks, the leather sweat-stained, the metal dented in one place. Battle scar or bar fight, hard to tell. Inside, someone tucked a sprig of dried rosemary. You crush a needle. The scent is sharp, clean, the smell of memory and Sunday roasts. A soft clatter echoes from the far end. You turn. A bronze coin rolls across the mosaic, spinning to a stop at your feet. Denarius again, Hadrian this time, beard neat, eyes stern. You pick it up, it's warm, as if just dropped from a living hand. The guide shrugs. The equites tip well. Consider it hazard pay for trespassing. You pocket it beside the garden tablet and the pine cone bull. The coin nestles against the Pasca flask's ghost. The air grows cooler, carrying the faint thunder of hooves that isn't there. You step back, and the rider on the lid seems to lean farther, salute sharper. The guide hops down, brushing marble dust from their cloak. Next stop's louder, I warn. Bring the spur, the arena's waiting. You leave the chamber, the horsehair plume swaying though no wind stirs. The clay floor gives way to sand, real sand, fine and pale, crunching underfoot like beach memories. The scent of horses lingers, mixed now with sweat and distant cheers. The sand underfoot is warm, almost hot, as if the sun that once baked the Colosseum has followed you underground. Each step crunches softly, releasing a faint scent of cedar oil and dried blood that clings to the back of your throat. Your lamp, now burning with the fierce loyalty of a torch that refuses to miss the final act, throws long shadows that leap across the walls like restless spectators. The guide, me, cedar now edged with iron and sweat. slows to let you absorb the roar that isn't there. Hear that? I murmur. 80,000 throats, one heartbeat. The arena never really quiets, it just naps between shows. You step into a narrow, barrel-vaulted chamber where the walls are painted the raw ochre of the Colosseum's outer ring. Every inch is scrawled with graffiti, names, tallies, crude sketches of gladiators locked in combat. Spartacus lives. Declares one, the letters hacked deep with a dagger point. Below it, a tally of Romans' 7 victories, each stroke a life. Scholars agree, gladiators were buried with honor when they earned freedom or died spectacularly. This necropolis held a few. But the quirky detail. Someone carved a tiny gladiator helmet into the plaster, perfect, palm-sized, complete with a cheek guard flipped up in jaunty salute. You run a thumb over it. The grooves are worn smooth, kissed by countless fingers. A fan's tribute, maybe, or the fighter's own good luck charm. At the chamber's heart stands a modest limestone sarcophagus, no larger than a hope chest, its lid carved with a retiarius. The net fighter, trident raised, net billowing like a jellyfish. The net is rendered in real bronze wire, thin as spider silk, still flexible. You touch it, the wire sings, a faint metallic hum. The fighter's face is worn smooth, but his legs are powerfully muscled, one knee bent in eternal lunge. On the sarcophagus front, a relief shows the same retiarius tangling a murmillo in his net, the heavier fighter's sword arm trapped. The murmillo's helmet is painted gold, now flaking, but the retiarius's trident tip is real iron, pitted with rust. You lean close, the iron smells of old rain and older blood. The unusual bit, someone wedged a real seashell, scallop, palm-sized, between the trident tines. The shell is pink inside, still glossy, the kind you find on Ostia beaches. A gift from the sea god, a snack for the afterlife. The shell rocks gently when you breathe. You circle the sarcophagus and the sand deepens, ankle deep now, pale and clean. A mosaic border runs around the base, the Colosseum in miniature, tiers of painted spectators waving scraps of colored cloth. One spectator, a child judging by the size, holds a wooden sword aloft, cheering. The sword is real wood, splintered but intact, glued to the tile. You pry it free, it's light, the grip worn smooth by a small hand. The guide perches on the sarcophagus edge, boots buried in sand. This one was a crowd favorite, I say. Name lost, but the graffiti remembers, Netman, 7 wins, never bored us. High praise in a city that yawned at emperors. You grin, and the bronze net hums in agreement. A niche beside the sarcophagus holds the fighter's gear, a bronze manica, arm guard, dented in 3 places, a gallerous shoulder piece still strapped with leather thongs, and a tiny clay oil lamp shaped like a dolphin. The dolphin's eye is a drop of red glass, bright as a ruby. You lift the lamp. Inside, a bead of ancient oil shimmers, refusing to dry. The mystery. The manica is engraved on the inside, to Hermes from his Lannister. Fight pretty. Lannister, the gladiator trainer, part coach, part slave dealer. Hermes, Mercury, patron of thieves and fighters. You slip the dolphin lamp into your pocket. It nestles against the equite spur and the garden tablet like old comrades. The air grows heavier, thick with cedar and the ghost of roasted chestnuts from the arena's upper tiers. You notice a liblation tube, laid, thumb thick, running from the sarcophagus into the sand. Someone poured wine here recently. The sand around the tube is darker, damp, smelling of vinegar and grapes. You kneel, scoop a handful. The grains cling like wet sugar. Above, St. Peter's bells toll a muffled quarter hour, the vibration traveling through sand and stone until it tickles your knees. gladiator and a parcel, sharing the same underground pulse. A soft clatter echoes from the far wall. You turn. A bronze coin rolls across the sand, spinning to a stop against your sandal. Cestitius this time, Nero's profile laureate and smug. You pick it up, it's warm, the emperor's nose rubbed smooth by centuries of thumbs. The guide shrugs. Arena change. Even the dead pay admission. You pocket it beside the dolphin lamp. The coin settles with a satisfied clink. You rise, sand cascading from your knees, and the Rashirius seems to lean forward, trident poised. The guide hops down, brushing ochre dust from their cloak. Next stop's quieter, I promise. But bring the net. The dark likes a good catch. You leave the chamber, the bronze wire singing faintly behind you. The sand gives way to brick, cool, red, ancient, and the scent of blood fades into cool stone and distant water. The bronze net's faint hum fades as the sand thins to a single gritty line, then vanishes beneath a threshold of worn brick. The air turns cool and damp, tasting of iron and wet limestone, and your lamp, now a steady coin of gold, reveals a narrow spiral stair descending in a tight coil. Each step is a shallow scoop, polished to a sheen by centuries of cautious feet. The guide, me, cedar now laced with cold stone, places a hand on the small of your back. One at a time, I murmur. The stair remembers every stumble. It's got a long memory and a short temper. You descend. The walls close in, brushing your shoulders, the brickwork older here, sesquipedalian blocks, rough-hewn, laid without mortar. Your lamp picks out finger-width grooves spiraling downward, 7 in a row, repeated every third step. Initiates again, or prisoners, or simply bored masons counting heartbeats. The air thickens, carrying the low, steady drip of water, plink, plink, like a metronome set to funeral time. Scholars agree, secret stairs were common in necropolis, linking levels, hiding shrines, or simply letting priests sneak in after hours. But the quirky detail. One groove ends in a tiny carved fish, Christian symbol, yes, but the tail is forked like a dolphin, pagan to the core. Someone hedged their theological bets. You trace the fish. The stone is cool, almost slick, as if the stair sweats. 10 steps down, the spiral tightens, and the ceiling drops until you stoop. Your lamp grazes the wall, revealing a fresco fragment, a single peacock feather, its eye still brilliant lapis. The paint is fresh enough to smell, mineral, earthy, the scent of ochre mixed with egg. Someone restored it recently, quietly. The feather seems to watch you descend, unblinking. 12 steps more, and the drip grows louder, closer. You round a bend, and the stair opens into a landing no wider than a prayer rug. A bronze ring is set into the floor. Lift it, and a trapdoor yawns, exhaling a breath of colder air scented with myrrh and river mud. You peer down, another stair narrower, vanishing into velvet dark. The guide kneels beside you. Optional detour, I say. Leads to the ossuary. Bones don't mind company, but they're terrible conversationalists. You shake your head. The main stair calls. You continue. The walls sweat now, tiny beads of water catching your lamp and throwing them back as diamonds. 20 steps, 25, and the spiral widens. The brick gives way to tufa blocks, pale and porous, drinking the light. A soft clink echoes below, your dolphin lamp shifting in your pocket, or something answering. The guide's voice drifts down, softer than before. Almost there. The stair likes to test your knees. Consider it cardio for the soul. 30 steps, and the air lightens, carrying a faint draft scented with beeswax and distant incense. The stair ends at a low archway framed objective in a single block of marble. its surface carved with a rope pattern, eternity knot, sailor's friend, or just pretty. You duck under, and the chamber beyond is round, domed, no larger than a chapel. The floor is paved with black and white tesserae in a simple labyrinth pattern, 7 circuits because of course. You step into the center. The tesserae are warm, sun-trapped even here. In the dome's apex, a tiny arculus opens to darkness, but a single shaft of light, real light, pale and Roman noon, slashes down, striking the labyrinth's heart. Dust motes dance in the beam like slow-motion confetti. The guide steps beside you, cedar scent now mingled with warm wax. Bottom of the stair, I say. From here the dead went up to the Basilica or down to the river. Most chose up. Smart. You smile and the labyrinth seems to breathe. You notice a final detail. The marble threshold you crossed bears a single word, barely legible. Descend. Descend. Someone carved it upside down, a joke for the living or a command for the dead. You run a finger over the letters. The stone is cool, patient. The air stills, the drip now a distant memory. Your lamp gutters, then steadies, as if relieved to be on level ground. The guide gestures toward a narrow corridor ahead, its walls unadorned, its darkness absolute. Next stop's quieter, I promise. But bring the light. The bones are waiting. You leave the labyrinth, the arculus beam fading behind you. The tesserae cool underfoot, and the scent of wax lingers like a promise. The labyrinth's warm tesserae fade beneath your sandals, replaced by rough hewn tufa that drinks the light and gives nothing back. The corridor is barely shoulder wide, the ceiling low enough that you walk half-crouched, lamp held low like a miner's candle. The air is cool, dry, tasting of chalk dust and old linen. Every few steps, your lamp glances off a shallow niche cut into the wall, each the size of a bread loaf, each holding a single oil lamp, long extinct, its clay blackened by soot. The guide, me, cedar now muted to a whisper of smoke, walks just ahead, fingertips trailing the wall. Farcer's highway, I murmur. Grave diggers' union. They knew every crack in this hill, also terrible at small talk. You round a gentle bend, and the corridor opens into a long, low gallery lit by a single hanging lamp, bronze, boat-shaped, swinging on a chain thick as your wrist. The flame inside is steady blue-white, fed by a hidden reservoir. Beneath it, the floor is a chaos of bones, tibiae stacked like firewood, skulls arranged in neat pyramids, ribs threaded on iron rods like grotesque wind chimes. Yet there is order here, long bones to the left, vertebrae in shallow trays, finger bones sorted by size in clay bowls. Scholars agree the farcers were professional gravediggers, often Christian by the 4th century, tasked with clearing older pagan tombs to make room for martyrs. But the quirky detail. One skull wears a child's laurel wreath, real leaves, gold wire, still green. Someone crowned a child in death, or a digger played a gentle prank. You lift the wreath. The leaves crumble to dust, releasing a puff of bay and memory. The skull grins, unoffended. The guide kneels beside a tray of vertebrae, selecting one the size of a walnut. Spine of a merchant, I say. Lived 42 years, died of bad oysters. The bones don't lie. You smile, and the hanging lamp sways, though no draught stirs. You notice the walls are lined with wooden shelves, pine, worm-eaten but sturdy, each holding a folded shroud, yellowed, embroidered with tiny red crosses. Some shrouds are child-sized, the cross is no larger than a fingernail. One shroud is pinned with a bronze brooch shaped like a dolphin, same as your pocket lamp. You unpin it. The metal is warm, the dolphin's eye a bead of red glass. The unusual bit. The shroud beneath is stitched with a single word in Greek, letter 1F00 nu alpha pi alpha upsilon sigma iota sigma, rest. The stitches are uneven, a child's hand perhaps, or a grieving mother's. You repin the brooch, the dolphin swimming eternal circles. A soft clatter echoes from the far end. You turn, a farcer's tool. An iron pick, short-hafted, lies on the floor, its tip still dusted with fresh lime. Someone was here hours ago, maybe minutes. The guide shrugs. They still work nights. Papal permit, union wages, excellent dental. You grin, and the hanging lamp answers with a slow pendulum swing. You step deeper, bones crunching softly underfoot like autumn leaves. A niche holds a clay ink pot, dried to a crust, and a reed pen, still sharp. Beside it, a wax tablet, plot 14 cleared. Child, female, laurel wreath. Relocate to level 3, brother Marcus. The same Marcus, perhaps, who left the wreath. The mystery. The tablet is dated 1947, mid-excavation, when the Vatican team was still mapping the chaos. Someone kept the old traditions alive. The air stills, thick with dust and the faint sweetness of myrrh. You notice a final detail, a single rib bone laid across a skull's brow like a blindfold. The bone is polished smooth, the skull's eye sockets dark and patient. You lift the rib. Beneath, a tiny silver coin, Constantine-era Chi-Rho symbol, rests in the nasal cavity. Payment for the ferryman, updated for Christian currency. You leave it. The skull seems content. The guide stands, brushing bone dust from their cloak. Next stop Steamia, I promise. Bring the dolphin. The oracle likes shiny things. You leave the gallery, the hanging lamp swinging behind you like a slow heartbeat. The tufa walls close in again, cool and silent, and the scent of myrrh follows like a faithful dog. The myrrh fades into something sharper, sulphurous, like a struck match held just out of sight. The tufa walls sweat now, tiny beads of moisture catching your lamp and throwing them back as pale green sparks. The corridor slopes gently downward, the floor slick with condensation, each footstep a soft kiss of sandal on wet stone. Your lamp, now burning with the calm of a hearth fire that's decided to stay awake, reveals faint cracks in the rock exhaling thin ribbons of steam. The guide, me, cedar now laced with brimstone, slows to let you taste the air. Breathe easy, I murmur. The oracle's been simmering since Vulcan was in diapers. It's polite, but it pinches. You round a bend, and the passage opens into a small, egg-shaped chamber no larger than a confessional. The ceiling is low, domed, and weeping, droplets gathering into tiny stalactites that glisten like glass. In the center, a cleft splits the floor, no wider than a handspan, exhaling a steady plume of warm vapor that smells of hot iron and wet earth. The steam curls upward, licking the dome, then drifts out through hairline cracks toward the basilica far above. Scholars agree natural geothermal vents were common under the Vatican Hill, exploited by priests for oracles long before Peter's bones arrived. But the quirky detail. Someone wedged a bronze coin, Trajan again, into the cleft's lip, edge up like a tiny dam. The metal is blackened, fused to the rock, steam hissing around it in a perfect circle. A bribe to the earth spirit, a temperature gauge. The coin is too hot to touch, but it hums, a low, steady note you feel in your teeth. You kneel. The floor around the cleft is paved with black basalt tiles, each etched with a single letter, Greek, Latin, Etruscan, jumbled like Scrabble tiles after a tantrum. You trace one, phi, fire, philosophy. Another, a alpha, beginning, or just someone's initial. The steam condenses on the tiles, forming tiny rivers that spell nothing and everything. The guide crouches beside you, cedar scent now mingled with heart stone. Petitioners brought questions, I say. Love, war, bad investments. The vapor answered in riddles. Sometimes it just made them sneeze. You smile, and the cleft exhales a warm puff that smells faintly of mint, someone's lunch, 2,000 years ago. A low shelf hugs the wall, carved from the living rock. On it rests a shallow clay bowl filled with dark liquid, thick as molasses, its surface filmed with dust. You lean close. It's water, but mineral heavy, the color of old pennies. Beside the bowl, a single laurel leaf, real brown, curled like a dead spider. You lift it. The leaf crumbles, releasing a ghost of bay and something sharper, anise maybe. The unusual bit. The bowl's rim is chipped, and the chip is patched with gold leaf, kintsugi style, Roman edition. Someone loved this oracle enough to mend it. You dip a finger. The water is hot, almost scalding, and when you pull back, a bead of it clings to your skin, cooling into a tiny crystal of salt. You flick it away. It lands with a soft plink in the cleft, and the steam answers with a sigh. The dome above is painted, barely visible through the haze, a night sky, constellations picked out in faded gold. Orion, the Pleiades, and there, a wonky Scorpio again, tail curled like a question mark. One star is brighter, a shard of mica glued to the plaster, catching your lamp and throwing it back as a green flash. The mystery. The mica is cracked, and through the crack, a single word is scratched in Latin, cave, beware. The oracle's own warning or a skeptic's graffiti. The steam curls around the word, erasing and revealing it in slow motion. A soft clatter echoes from the cleft. You peer in. A bronze stylus, short as a toothpick, lies wedged between stones, its tip still sharp. You fish it out with 2 fingers. The metal is warm, almost hot, and etched with a tiny snake coiled around a staff, Asclepius, or just a stylish doodle. The stylus smells of ink and heart rock. You pocket it beside the dolphin lamp and the equite spur. The cleft exhales again, warmer as if approving the theft. The guide stands, brushing steam from their cloak. Next stop's cooler, I promise, but bring the salt crystal. The veil likes a souvenir. You rise, knees damp, and the basalt tiles cool underfoot. The steam thins, carrying the faint scent of mint and distant roses. The corridor ahead darkens, the walls closing in like a gentle embrace. The steam's last curl clings to your lashes as the basalt tiles give way to cool, pale marble veined with gray, like moonlight trapped in stone. The corridor widens into a perfect square chamber, its corners softened by centuries of gentle breath. Your lamp, now a quiet ember of gold, reveals a single feature, a doorway in the far wall, life-sized, framed in black marble and hung with a veil of sheer linen so fine it might be woven from dusk itself. The veil stirs though no wind moves, its hem brushes the floor with a whisper softer than silk on skin. The guide, me, cedar, now hushed to a murmur of beeswax, stops an arm's length away. Easy, I say. The veil's shy. It only parts for those who don't push. You approach. The marble floor is inlaid with a narrow band of porphyry, imperial purple, thin as a ribbon, running straight to the threshold like an arrow. Halfway across, the band splits. One thread veers left toward a faint Christian Chi-Rho scratched into the stone. The other veers right toward a tiny carved bull no larger than a thumbnail. Pagan and Christian, braided together, then diverging. Scholars agree, by the late 3rd century the Necropolis was a palimpsest, old cults lingering, new faith overlaying. But the quirky detail. Someone pressed a real peacock feather into the wet mortar where the path split. The eye is still brilliant, the quill fused to the stone like a fossil. You kneel. The feather's barbs tickle your fingertip, soft as memory. The veil itself is a marvel. Linen so sheer you glimpse movement beyond. Shadows, perhaps, or the slow drift of lamplight through another chamber. Embroidered along the hem, in thread the color of dried blood, runs a single line of Latin, barely legible. Hic transit gloria mundi. Here passes the glory of the world. The stitches are uneven, hurried, as if the embroiderer feared interruption. You reach out, not touching, and the veil answers with a breath of cool air scented with frankincense and cold iron. The guide's voice drifts from behind. Some say Peter's bones passed this way, I murmur. Others say Mithra's still keeps office hours. The veil doesn't vote. A low shelf of white marble flanks the doorway, no higher than your knee. On it rests a shallow silver dish holding water. No, oil, its surface perfectly still, reflecting the veil like a dark mirror. Floating on the oil, a single bay leaf, edges gilded, spinning slowly though nothing stirs it. You watch it turn. The gilding catches your lamp and throws tiny suns across the linen. The unusual bit. Beneath the leaf, etched into the silver, a tiny key, skeleton, Roman, still functional. Someone meant to lock or unlock something. You lift the leaf. The key is warm, the oil clinging to it like liquid amber. You dry it on your sleeve and pocket it beside the stylus and dolphin lamp. The dish rocks once, then stills. The veil lifts a finger's breadth, revealing a sliver of the chamber beyond, brick arches, a glimpse of frescoed sky, the soft glow of many lamps. Then it settles, modest again. You notice the floor just before the threshold is worn into two shallow grooves, parallel, sandal-shaped, centuries deep. Pilgrim's knees, perhaps, or initiate's crawling. You set your own foot in one groove. It fits like a mold made yesterday. The marble is cool, almost cold, and for a heartbeat, you feel the weight of every soul who paused here. Pagan, Christian, uncertain. A soft chime sounds behind you. You turn. The peacock feather in the floor has shed a single barb, iridescent, drifting down to rest on the porphyry ribbon. It lands on the Christian side, then impassable, slides sideways to the bull, then stills in the exact center. The guide exhales a laugh like wind through reeds. Even the feather can't choose, I say. Smart bird. The air stills, thick with frankincense and the faint sweetness of bay. Above, St. Peter's organ rumbles a single low note, vespers, perhaps, or rehearsal. The vibration travels through marble and veil, making the linen quiver like a sail before calm. You step back, reluctant, and the grooves in the floor seem to sigh. The guide gestures toward a side passage, narrow, unadorned, smelling of cool earth. Next stop's brighter, I promise. But bring the key, the lost like openings. You leave the square chamber, the veil settling into perfect stillness behind you. The peacock barb glints once in your lamp, then vanishes into shadow. The veil's whisper fades behind you, replaced by the soft creak of rope on iron and the warm, familiar scent of olive oil burning slow. The passage opens into a round chamber no larger than a village well, its walls ringed with tiny niches like honeycomb cells. Each niche cradles a clay lamp, hundreds of them, some no bigger than a walnut. Their wicks long since turned to charcoal, but their bowls still holding a bead of ancient oil that gleams like liquid amber. Your own lamp, now a steady heartbeat of gold, joins the chorus, and the chamber glows like a night sky turned inside out. The guide, me, cedar now sweetened with warm wax, lifts a hand to the nearest niche. Lanterns for the nameless, I murmur. One per soul, no questions asked. The dead hate bureaucracy. You step closer. The floor is paved with river pebbles, smooth, grey, cool arranged in a loose spiral that leads to a low stone plinth in the center. On the plinth sits a single lamp larger than the rest, its bowl carved into a tiny boat, a bronze dolphin leaping the prow. The wick floats on a raft of cork, still burning, though no hand has trimmed it in centuries. Scholars agree lamp offerings were universal in Roman tombs, light for the journey, company for the dark. But the quirky detail. Someone tucked a real baby tooth, milk white, perfect, under the dolphin's tail. You lift it. The tooth is warm, the root still pink. A child's offering or a parent's promise. You set it back. The dolphin seems to nod. The niches climb the walls in tidy rows, some lamps plain, others painted with crude faces. Smiling, grimacing, one with a comically oversized nose. You reach for a high one. It's stuck, fused by mineral drip, but the clay is thin enough to see through. Inside, a shadow, ash perhaps, or a curled scrap of papyrus. The unusual bit. The lamp's handle is shaped like a tiny key, matching the silver one in your pocket. You compare, identical. Someone mass-produced hope. You leave it. The key in your pocket warms as if recognizing family. A soft clink echoes overhead. You look up. The dome is pierced by a single oculus, and through it drifts a faint shaft of real light. Basilica daylight, pale and Roman. Dust motes spiral down like slow snow, landing on the lamps and vanishing. One mote settles on your dolphin boat. The flame flares, then steadies. The guide perches on the plinth's edge, legs swinging. Excavators found these in the 1950s, I say. Moved most to museums, left these for ambience. The dead complained, too bright, too quiet, so the lamps stay. You grin, and the dolphin flame dances in agreement. You circle the chamber, fingertips brushing lamp after lamp. One is cracked, repaired with a strip of lead, ancient duct tape. Another holds a single pine nut, fossilized but intact. A third is painted with a tiny ship, sail furled, the same cedar scent as the Isis boat. The mystery: every seventh lamp is upside down, wick hole plugged with wax. A code, a mistake, or a quiet protest from a gravedigger with opinions. You write one. The wax crumbles, releasing a puff of myrrh. The flame in the dolphin boat flares again, brighter. The air is warm, almost cozy, thick with oil and the faint sweetness of beeswax from above. You notice a final detail. The spiral pebbles lead not to the plinth, but to a small iron grate in the floor. You kneel. Beneath, a shallow channel carries water, clear, slow, reflecting the lamps like a river of stars. You dip a finger. The water is cool, tasting of stone and distant rain. The guide's voice drifts down. Feeds the cisterns, I say. Even the nameless get a drink. You rise, knees damp, and the dolphin flame settles. The guide hops down, brushing wax from their cloak. Last, stop softer, I promise. But bring a light. The silence likes company. You leave the chamber, one lamp in hand, plain clay warm, its wick trimmed by your own fingers. The niches glow behind you, a constellation of the lost, and the scent of oil follows like a faithful dog. The borrowed lamp in your hand burns steady, its clay bowl warm against your palm like a small, patient animal. The corridor rises now, brick giving way to massive blocks of travertine, the very foundations of the basilica above. Each stone fitted so tight you couldn't slip a laurel leaf between them. The air is cool, dry, carrying the faint, unmistakable scent of candle smoke and old incense that has soaked into stone for centuries. Your footsteps echo once, then hush, as if the walls themselves are listening. The guide, me, cedar now softened to a whisper of beeswax and marble dust, walks half a pace behind. "Tread lightly," I murmur. "We're under the high altar. The silence here has tenure." You emerge into a vast, low crypt, its ceiling supported by squat columns that disappear into shadow. The floor is the original Necropolis pavement. Opus spiccatum, herringbone brick laid in perfect rows, worn to a satin sheen by the slow shuffle of countless feet. Your lamp joins a constellation of others, dozens of modern electric bulbs on thin wires, dimmed to a honey glow, strung like Christmas lights across the void. Between the columns, the ancient tombs lie open and empty, their sarcophagi removed or reburied, but the frescoes remain. Faint gardens, faded peacocks, a dolphin still leaping though its sea has drained away. Scholars agree this level was cleared in the 1940s to make room for Peter's shrine. The pagan dead were respectfully relocated deeper. But the quirky detail. Someone left a single child's sandal, leather, sole worn through, on the exact spot where the high altar's foundation stone now rests. You lift it. The leather is soft, the strap still knotted. A workman's child, perhaps, or a quiet offering from a pope who remembered being small. You set it back. The sandal stays. The guide gestures upward. High above, through a circular opening no wider than a dinner plate, you glimpse the underside of the papal altar, gilded bronze, the baldacchino's spiral columns twisting like frozen smoke. A faint shaft of candlelight leaks down, striking the herringbone bricks and painting them the color of warm bread. The light trembles whenever a priest above shifts his weight. You feel it in your souls. The unusual bit. The opening is ringed with a thin band of ancient lead, etched with a single line in Greek. Kappa Upsilon Rho Iota Epsilon letter 1 F10 Lambda Epsilon Eta Sigma Omicron Nu, Lord, have mercy. The letters are tiny, almost shy, scratched by a mason who knew the old guards were moving out. You reach up. Your fingertips brush the lead, cool and smooth. A low bench of travertine runs along one wall, its surface carved with shallow grooves, kneeling places for pilgrims who never came. You sit. The stone is warm, sun-warmed even here, and the bench fits your spine like it was waiting. From this angle you spot a final detail, a single brick in the floor, slightly proud, bearing a faint thumbprint in the wet clay, small, a child's again. You press your own thumb beside it. The print is still tacky with centuries of dust, but the match is close. The guide settles beside you, cedar scent now mingled with candle wax. They say Peter's bones are directly above, I say. Carbon dated, argued over, prayed to. The Necropolis doesn't care, it just holds the space. You nod, and the shaft of light flickers as a candle above is snuffed. The air stills, thick with incense and the faint sweetness of melted wax. You notice the walls are pierced by tiny ventilation shafts, each no wider than a fist, carrying the soft hum of Gregorian chant from the Basilica's evening mass. The sound is muffled, intimate, like a lullaby sung through a keyhole. Pagan brick, Christian stone, both breathing the same air. The guide's voice drops to a thread. Next stop's outside, I promise, but bring the silence. The stars like it. You rise, knees soft, and the child's sandal stays where it is, a small, stubborn witness. The borrowed lamp gutters once, then steadies, and the crypt's glow follows you like a faithful dog. The borrowed lamp steadies as you climb a final set of shallow steps. Travertine again, but newer, the edges crisp where modern hands have replaced the ancient. The air lightens, carrying the cool, green scent of cypress and distant Tiber water. Your sandals find real earth now, packed hard and dusted with pine needles that crunch softly, releasing their resinous breath. The guide, me, cedar now laced with night-blooming jasmine, pauses at a low archway framed by modern brick. "Surface," I murmur. "Moon's up. The dead prefer appointments after dark." You step through, and the necropolis opens to the sky. The mausolea rise around you like quiet townhouses, 2 stories, 3, some with pediments still proud, others roofless, their frescoed interiors washed silver by moonlight. The Via Triumphalis stretches ahead, narrower now, paved with the original basalt blocks worn into gentle waves by centuries of wheels. Overhead, the Basilica's dome looms, a dark silhouette against a sky thick with stars. More stars than you've seen in years, the city's glow held at bay by Vatican walls. Your lamp feels suddenly small. You cup the flame, and it answers with a grateful flare. A soft breeze finds you, carrying the faint toll of St. Peter's bell. Midnight, perhaps, or simply the hour the dead keep. The sound rolls across the tombs like a slow wave, and every mausoleum answers with a whisper of settling brick. Scholars agree, the excavated necropolis is now a museum under the stars, open by appointment, lit by careful spotlights. But the quirky detail, someone strung a single strand of modern fairy lights, warm white, battery-powered, along the eaves of the nearest tomb. The bulbs glow like captive fireflies, and one blinks in slow Morse you can't quite read. You smile. Even eternity gets a nightlight. You walk the via, lamp held low. The tombs are labeled now, discreet bronze plaques, Latin and Italian, but the moonlight ignores them. A peacock fresco on one wall catches the silver and throws it back in liquid blues. The bird's eye, real lapis, winks. Another tomb bears a child's handprint in the stucco, tiny fingers splayed as if waving goodbye. You rest your palm over it. The print is warm, sun-baked even at night. The unusual bit. Beside the handprint, someone pressed a modern coin, Eurocent, 2002, into the damp plaster during a restoration. The coin is fused, the Queen's profile half-melted, a quiet graffiti of the 21st century. You leave it. The handprint seems pleased. The guide falls in beside you, cedar scent now mingled with moon-cooled stone. "Last stroll," I say. "The mausolea like a lullaby, no encores." You nod, and the fairy lights blink once, twice, then steady. Ahead the road ends at a low wall overlooking the Tiber, dark water sliding past, reflecting the dome like a second moon. You lean on the wall. The stone is cool, damp with river mist. Your lamp gutters in the breeze, but the moon is enough. The mystery. A single clay lamp, ancient, identical to yours, floats on the current, wick burning, drifting south toward Astia. You watch it go, the flame holds, steady as a promise. The air stills, thick with jasmine and the faint sweetness of cypress. Above, a shooting star scratches the sky, brief, bright, gone. The guide's voice is barely breath. "Time to drift," I whisper. "The stars are waiting." You turn from the river, the floating lamp a tiny sun on black water. The mausolea settle around you, silver and silent, and the path leads upward, one last time, towards sleep. The floating lamp has vanished around the river's bend, taking its small, stubborn flame with it, and the moon now rules alone. You follow the Via Triumphalis one last time, but the basalt blocks have softened into a carpet of pine needles and moonlit dust that hushes every footstep. The mausolea stand back, giving you space, their doorways dark and courteous. Your borrowed lamp flickers once, twice, then settles into a gentle pulse, as if it too is ready to rest. The guide, me, cedar now no more than a breath of night air, walks beside you without sound. "Almost home," I murmur. "The necropolis is tucking itself in." Let's not wake the peacocks. You pass the final tomb, its peacock fresco now a ghost of blues and silvers. The bird's lappy's eye catches the moon and holds it, a quiet lantern for the road. The fairy lights on the eaves blink once in farewell, then dim to embers. The air is cool, scented with cypress and the faint, sweet rot of fallen leaves, the smell of autumn deciding to stay. Your collection of keepsakes, the silver key, the dolphin lamp, the pine cone bull, the euro cent fused in plaster, rests light in your pocket, warm from your body, no longer clinking. They have become part of the night's hush. The path climbs a gentle rise, and the Basilica's dome recedes behind you, its silhouette softening into the greater dark. Ahead, a low stone bench waits beneath a single cypress, its branches silvered, needles whispering secrets to the wind. You sit. The bench is warm from the day's trapped sun, and it cradles you like the stone couches you reclined on hours ago. The moon is directly overhead now, full and low, washing the necropolis in a tide of pearl. Every tomb, every fresco, every forgotten name glows for a moment, then settles back into shadow. The unusual bit, a single white rose, real, dewy, impassable, rests on the bench beside you. Its petals are edged in moonlight. It sent the exact memory of the painted garden. You lift it. The stem is cool, thornless, the blossom heavy with night. No one placed it here. It simply arrived, the necropolis' quiet thank you. You twirl the rose between finger and thumb. The guide settles on the grass at your feet, cedar scent now only starlight. You've walked the whole road, I say, voice soft as moth wings. From the via to the veil, from the banquet to the bones. The dead are grateful. They sleep better when someone remembers the way. You nod, and the cypress answers with a sigh. The moon slips a fraction lower, and the rose's petals begin to glow from within, each vein a thread of silver. The air stills completely. Even the Tiber's distant murmur fades. Your lamp gives one final, courteous flicker and goes out, leaving the moon and the rose to share the light. The necropolis exhales. Once, long, slow, and every mausoleum door seems to close without sound. The peacock's eye dims, the fairy lights blink out, the child's sandal curls into shadow. You feel it in your chest. The great underground city is folding itself into dreams, layer by layer until only starlight remains. You lean back against the cypress trunk. Its bark is rough, kind, smelling of resin and high summer. The bench cradles your spine, the rose rests against your heart. Your eyelids grow heavy, not with fatigue, but with the gentle gravity of a tide pulling you out. The stars overhead gather closer, each one a lamp you once carried, now returned to the sky. The guide's voice is the last thread. Let go, I whisper. The road brought you here. The night will carry you the rest of the way. Your breath slows. The rose's scent deepens, becomes the painted garden, the Isis water, the mulsum on your tongue. The cypress needles brush your cheek like a lullaby. The moon leans down, kisses your brow with cool light, and the necropolis dissolves into silver mist. There is no up or down, no then or now, only the soft rhythm of your own heart, steady as the drip in the oracle's cleft, warm as the bench beneath you. The last thing you feel is the rose unfolding, petal by petal, until it is the sky itself. The stars drift closer, become lamps again, then breathes, then nothing but the gentle dark behind your eyes. You are safe. The dead are sleeping. The night leans closer, and you let it take you. Each breath is slower now, deeper, pulling the cypress scent into your lungs and releasing the day in a soft ribbon of warmth. The bench beneath you has become cloud, the rose a petal on still water. Above, the moon is a silver coin pressed gently to your brow, cooling every thought until it dissolves. You are safe. Nothing is required of you tonight. No steps, no lamps, no questions. The necropolis has folded its stories into the earth. The peacocks sleep with their eyes closed, the children dream of dolphins, the equites rest their lances. Even the oracle's steam has curled into quiet. Let your shoulders sink. Let the cypress hold you. Feel the slow tide of your pulse, steady, unhurried, carrying you farther from the shore of waking. The stars overhead are lanterns lowered one by one, each snuffing into velvet dark. The Tiber murmurs a lullaby older than Rome, older than names. Breathe in the night. Breathe out the light. The rose has become your blanket, the moon your pillow. There is only this softness, this hush, this gentle drifting. The world above, the basilica, the city, the clocks, has paused its turning. Time itself leans in, kisses your forehead, and steps aside. You are cradled in the palm of centuries, warm, weightless home, sweet dreams.